The Ambitious Radio Network. Conversations with ambitious entrepreneurs and thought leaders. Are you an entrepreneur, startup junkie, or just someone interested in improving their leadership skills? If you're looking to be motivated, inspired, and uncover what it takes to get to the next level, listening to Ambitious Radio will be well worth the investment of your time. We have weekly engaging conversations with today's most influential thought leaders and entrepreneurs as they discuss their successes, failures, tipping points, and other priceless information that you can apply immediately after listening. And welcome to the show. Good to have you right here. It is Ambitious Radio, hosted by our friend Doug Parker, talking about entrepreneurship and leadership while interviewing interesting people and what makes them ambitious. Now, you know the show wouldn't be possible without our sponsors, Grasshopper.com, the entrepreneur's phone system. You know, most of the time, small business owners need to personally guarantee any loans that their companies take out. That can be kind of tough to do if you have credit issues. So if you have less than perfect credit, go to RepairMyCreditNow.com for a free credit report evaluation. RepairMyCreditNow.com. Doug, what do we have going on today?
We have just another great guest. I'll tell you what, it is today we're going to be talking to Gino Barbaro. And Gino was actually introduced to me from another guest from another show that I do. And he is a father of 6. He's married to a wonderful woman by the name of Julia. He's been a business owner for over 25 years and recently retired from the restaurant business to pursue a real estate career and a coaching career. He has over 674 units in his real estate portfolio, and he has 2 best-selling books on Amazon, Wheelbarrow Profits and Family, Food, and the Friars. Gino, welcome to the show, sir. What did I miss in the intro?
You wrapped it up real good, Doug. How you doing? Thanks for having me on.
Well, I tell you what, I always enjoy having entrepreneurs on, and I like having people that they reinvent themselves. And obviously, you know, real estate and Italian food, they don't necessarily go together. So that's kind of an interesting reinvention that you did there. But tell us just a little bit about yourself. Let's kind of rewind it back a few years to kind of where you got your beginning at and where you're from and where'd you grow up at?
Well, the reason why they blend together is I have immigrant parents. Both of my parents were born in Italy, so they came over here. Hardworking. My father got into the restaurant business. I guess fortunately and unfortunately, because I followed his path. But for me, it was a blessing because I got to spend 37 years of my life with him in the kitchen all the time, and it was just great. It was awesome. I lost him about 10 years ago, so that's when I started saying to myself, "Do I really want to be in the restaurant? My brother's my partner. My mom is there, but do I really want to be here? I mean, I had no more growth. I had no more contribution left. It felt like that's why I wrote the cookbook, and that's why I got together with the Franciscan Friars of the Renewal. They're a bunch of Catholic, monks, and I got working with them. I just wanted to give back, and I felt like the restaurant was not doing that for me. It was just too many hours. It was stressful. After 2008, the business just wasn't generating enough income for me, and I kept having kids. I thought I was done at 3, but it's like buying multifamily properties. The more you have, the better you get at it, and the more you can enjoy them. Believe it or not, the only difference is kids take away the cash flow. Multifamily properties give you cash flow, so that's the only difference. But I just love the family, and I said to myself, I need to do something where I can generate more money. And fortunately, I met my partner who's down in Tennessee now. He was up here in New York. He relocated down there, and 4 years ago we just started buying properties, and it was just a quick ascension for me. I ended up accumulating 674 units in about 3.5 years worth of time, and I decided in March, I said, let me just leave the restaurant. Let me do this full time. Let me do some life coaching. I just love the whole space. I love the real estate space. I love the life coaching space, and I just love talking to guys like you. It's invigorating. It's contributing. It's getting out of my comfort zone. It's making me feel alive. That's the most important thing. I'm passionate about this stuff.
That makes a huge difference. I've heard many times people say things like, "I'll do it till it's not fun anymore." And as a younger man, now I've got the gray hairs to prove I'm not a younger man anymore. But I used to think, man, I'll do whatever as long as it's ethical and moral. I mean, I don't really care what I do. I just want to make some money. But then you realize a little later in life, if you've got some talent, you've got some skills, that there's a lot of things you can do to apply your God-given talents. And if it's not fun, I had a guy that said, if you don't like your life, then you've got the wrong life. change it, do something about it.
Right.
And, it's cool seeing some of those things that you're talking about, how, the restaurant business, it was cool, and you got to spend a lot of time with your dad, and through that process, obviously, you learned a lot. But it's like, hey, is that really what my passion is? You wrote a book, you were able to get outside the box and do some other stuff. One thing, and I don't know, if you feel comfortable with this, if you do, I'd love to just talk a little bit about those experiences with Dad, because, I went through something a while back, and it was like a men's group deal, and we were talking about time after the Industrial Revolution. So for 6,000 years or whatever, all mankind basically, children were raised with their parents, with both parents, with their dads. They'd go out in the field, when they were whatever age, and help out. And then as the turn of the Industrial Revolution came along, it became primarily the woman's job to raise the kids. And then the males went off for 10, 12, 14 hours a day, and were too tired to spending time with them afterwards. And that's caused some different things. But I was just raised that, hey, the man, he brings home the bacon. He's the provider. And if you're providing for your family, that's traditionally what you're supposed to do. And it just really opened my eyes. But it sounds like you were able to grow up, spend a lot of time with your dad in the kitchen. So that's a unique experience to a lot of people growing up.
Well, I was lucky. My dad went into business when he was 39 years old. So I was 8 years old. I remember the first day going in there into his place. He had 3 partners, big Italian restaurant back in the 70s. And it was different back then. It was difficult to start a business. Everyone complains now. But back then you needed capital, you needed money, and it was something that, it was really risky back then. I went in the kitchen, 8 years old, I remember. And that's where my, hard work and the things to get done, he taught me. Those dads back then are a little bit different. Their actions spoke louder than their words. He didn't say "I love you" all the time, but I was really lucky. I mean, he taught me the work ethic. He taught me how to raise my family. He was my role model. So I was fortunate in that instance. And I had a mom who stayed home for the first 20 years of his restaurant. Then we ended up buying our place about 20 years ago, and my mom came to work with us. All 4 of us were working together. The only thing I'd say that I learned that was bad for my father was the old timers sort of have a limiting belief where back 30, 40 years ago, it worked really well. Have that one place, stay there, milk it like you can, and it'll give you a great living. And that's what it did for him for his career. But as you know now, industry's changed, the internet's changed, competition is rampant, expenses are through the roof. And if you have one location and you can't think outside the box and you can't grow your business, you're going to die. And that's what happened to me. So, everything that he taught me was great, except for that one thing. You got to be there. You have to be there all the time. And I took that with me, and that was one of my limiting beliefs. And that's one of the things that I had to work on. And I mean, I shattered that limiting belief because, I own all those units. They're not in my backyard. I have somebody managing them. So it takes a little while for you to work on that stuff. But I figured that really propelled me once I thought outside the box that way.
Yeah, that makes a huge difference. And I was reading something the other day, and it really alluded to the fact that you have to reinvent yourself in this day and age every 5 years. And, my beliefs in the past have kind of been the same way as your dad's probably were. Hey, you get into something, you become an expert at it. I mean, Malcolm Gladwell talks about that you're not even an expert at anything until you've been doing something for 5 years. And then here the new stuff is, hey, if you haven't reinvented yourself every 5 years, the times are changing so rapidly that you will become a dinosaur and become extinct. So it's finding out that balance of how to become an expert as quickly as possible, and then how to adapt and adopt new things to stay relevant. So yeah, that's great information. Well, let's jump into real quick, some of the things that you've run into in business. Let's talk about maybe some obstacles you've ran into. So obviously you had the restaurant stuff, and then now you're doing some real estate, but any obstacles, major obstacles that you've run into, and how you kind of persevered through those that have popped up over the last few years?
Obstacles in business are everyday little things as far as employees go. That's one of the reasons why I got out of the restaurant. I just couldn't take the employees, and I was looking at it from a different perspective. When you're in the kitchen and you're hands-on so much, it's very difficult to say to somebody, do this. I was trying to be the leader by showing how to do the work. Somebody showed up sick, I'd pick up the slack. And that's just not the way to do it when you're in business in your place. You really have to delegate more. I wasn't delegating enough responsibility. I was taking too much on my own shoulders, and I was doing those 10, 12 $12 an hour job that I should have had somebody else doing, pay them a little bit more. That was probably my biggest mistake and what drew me out of there. I wasn't able to do content. Now I'm able to write content every day, provide value in a different way, and I wasn't able to do that when I was in the restaurant, in the kitchen. So that was really holding me back more than anything else. The ability to delegate and to say, listen, this is not my job. I'm doing low-level jobs. I have to figure out what brings revenue. And my other stumbling block was I was never trained in sales. Now I'm doing sales training and all, and it opens my mind. Everyone hears that word salesman, and salesman is the only person who is only going to be able to provide you information for a product that you're looking for, to create value and to give you value. And I never looked at it from that perspective. And now that you do this kind of training, I think every entrepreneur should start out with the training job, with the sales job. And I didn't do that, unfortunately. But you know what? Like you said, I'm reinventing myself. I'm learning new stuff, and I think that's what entrepreneurs have to focus on first and foremost, to create value and to be able to provide that value to their clients. And what's great about it is I'm get a chance to talk for an hour at a time with these people who are trying to revolutionize their lives, trying to realign their goals, trying to talk about their energy blocks. So that, as you're learning stuff, you're doing it and you start teaching it. The teaching is the third step. And when you start teaching stuff, it's incumbent upon you to learn the stuff, so you're learning it even better. So to become a true expert, I think you have to learn it, then you have to jump in and do it, take action. And then the third step is to teach it. And I love teaching it because I have to go back, I have to do research, I have to listen to people, and that's what I love to do. That's what's starting to give me the charge right now. The apartments, we're really growing, we're refinancing the properties, we're getting them long-term rates, so that's great there. We're continuing to buy that, and what I'm doing now with Jake and Gino on the real estate side, I'm doing podcasts and I'm doing blogs and articles, and that's what's really driving my day. What's making me feel passionate about my day. My
goodness, that is just great information. Learn, do, and then teach. And that really, just it helps you, it helps others. And I know that was one of your favorite quotes is if you help enough other people get what they want, you'll always get what you want. And that's an old Zig Ziglar quote as well. So that is just great information. And if you'd like to go back and reference something on the show, you can check out the show notes on ambitiousradio.com. The content that we discussed there today will be on the page. We'll put links to all the books he mentions and those kinds of things. You can like us on Facebook and Twitter and all those kind of things. But tune in after a brief word from our sponsors where you hear more from Gino about his career pursuits and what he is going to be experiencing as an ambitious entrepreneur right here on the Ambitious Radio Network.
Could you lose your career because of your faith? Could your pastor be sued because of his sermons? Can students and teachers be punished because of what they believe about God or what they say? Can the government or even your employer force you to violate your beliefs? Get the answers, and if necessary, legal protection from First Liberty Institute. This is Kelly Shackelford, president of First Liberty. We are the nation's largest legal organization dedicated exclusively to restoring religious freedom in America. In fact, First Liberty's nationwide network of top attorneys win over 90% of their cases. We've won at the Supreme Court all the way down to the local schools. If you want hope for religious freedom, go to firstliberty.org and get your free In God We Trust window clean. That's firstliberty.org.
As we get back into the show, let's give a shout out to our great sponsors, all3reports.com. That's all, the number 3 reports with an S.com. Many people check their credit every 3 to 5 years when they're financing a home or maybe when they're purchasing a new vehicle. But if there is an issue, it could be too late to do anything about it. So go to all3reports.com to find out more. Speaking of a new vehicle, a wise person once said, lease what depreciates, buy what appreciates. So go to AutoFlex Leasing. They offer a better way to lease your next car. America's largest independent leasing company is AutoFlex Leasing. Doug?
All right, we're back with Gino Barbaro, and he really has great stuff going on. We're going to talk a little bit about his professional adventures. And, I know that you started out doing some Italian food. We talked a little bit about that. Now you're doing some real estate investing, and I saw some things on your site when I was doing some research on you about the different kind of strategies that you have. I think there was like 3 main points, but can you talk a little bit about those points and then what you're doing right now to monetize your efforts, exactly how your business makes money?
Sure. What happened was I bought my first property back in 2002, and I always tell people this: my should wasn't my must. I dabbled in it. I didn't become an expert in it. I didn't do any kind of coaching or mentoring in it. I just jumped in it head first, which is what most entrepreneurs do. I didn't really have a strategy. I didn't have a niche. I just said, you know what? I need to create some kind of passive income. This looks pretty good. And, back then it was a pretty good investment. I got lucky. Did the same thing back in 06, 07. Didn't work so well. So I said to myself, what am I doing here? So what I ended up doing was getting a real estate coach, getting mentored, really learning the space and saying, what do I want? My should became a must in 08. I said, I got to do this now. I'm all in. Learned multifamily is one of the better vehicles in real estate to do what I wanted to do. I wanted to generate passive income every month. I wanted to have money coming in every month, and I wanted to create that wealth. So I said, how do I do this? We stumbled upon a strategy. We ended up coming with the 3 legs, which you're talking about. We wrote a book called Wheelbarrow Profits. It's Wheelbarrow Profits because there's 3 legs in a wheelbarrow. You have to buy right, which is the first leg. You have to manage right, which is the wheel, which is in constant motion. And you have to finance right. Now, if one of those legs is off, what happens in the wheelbarrow? It tips over. So we really stress those 3 legs. And as far as buying right, it's just having certain criteria that you need to reach. And, I can give you the criteria we use. We like to buy properties that have an actual 10% cash on cash return. We look for cap rates in the 7 to 8 range. Right now, cap rates are compressing. The market's really starting to heat up. And debt coverage ratios of about 1.2 or better. But the problem is you have to follow that framework. If you're not buying the property right, it's not what you buy, it's what you pay. So you really have to be really diligent about buying properties. You have to really learn the whole system. And once you learn the system, it's like anything else. It's like Tony Robbins says, it's like baking a cake. You have that recipe. You continue to follow the recipe. It might take you a year to learn the recipe. It might take you 3 years to learn the recipe. But learn the recipe. Become an expert in that specific niche. If you want to fix and flip, that's great. I don't think there's anything wrong with that as long as that's what you want to do. But you have to learn it from an expert or from somebody. Shorten that learning curve. Learn from his mistakes. You're always going to make mistakes. But if you can see someone else's mistakes and work off of them, that's like one of the most powerful things. Everyone's always afraid of spending 10 grand or 15 grand or 5 grand, but then they don't mind dropping 100 grand in a college education and they can't get a job. It doesn't make any sense to me whatsoever. If you can spend money with a guy who's done it before, do that because it's going to shorten your learning curve. You're going to make money quicker, and you're going to have somebody who's got a recipe, who can bake a cake and get those brownies at perfect, nice and chewy and delicious every single time.
There's something to say about having a recipe, and I don't know what the deal is in this culture where everybody has to go to college, and the reality is, so I've never been to college a day in my life, and I think it's great the folks that have been to college, and I think it's great for the doctors and the different things, but it's not for everyone. So what I'm fixing to say, I'm pointing the finger out at all the listeners. I'm pointing 3 of them back at myself, but the bottom line is college isn't for everybody. There's a lot of people that go out there and they're thinking about doing some stuff. And I got one kid that is in college right now it's about $170,000 to go for 5 years. She's doing a 5-year master's. And I got another one that he's thinking more like going to barber school. And it's just he's tried some junior college stuff and he's like, man, it's just not for me. I don't like it. I don't want to do it. And we could force him to go and we could dump a bunch of money into it and he'd halfway pay attention. Or we can try to do something different. And like you said, find something that you want to do and then find someone else that is successfully doing that and ask them to mentor to you or model for you. Or there are sometimes, as you say, classes, whether it's a real estate course or different things, that you can go out there and get knowledge that you can apply today because, and again, nothing against colleges, but a lot of that knowledge is not necessarily useful, especially if you don't have any intentions of going into that field or whatever the case is. So very, very good information there. And I like the recipe analogy there. You know, it's like baking a cake. Learn the recipe, okay? So learn it so you can do it right. It'd be kind of like, you know, jumping in and just throwing a handful of salt in there or this or that, and it comes out tasting, you know, like the ocean. That's not a very good strategy. Go get you a recipe where you can really do it and do it right. Now, let's talk a little bit more about this book. So I know you said that Wheelbarrow Profits is the name of it, and it's got the 3 legs. And if one of them is too short or too long, it'll tump it over. But how did you guys come up with that strategy? And was it built on a foundation of some other stuff, trial and error? How did you come up with it?
Well, it's funny. When we first bought our first property, I'll give you the progression of the sizes and everything. The first property we bought was 25 units. The next one was 36 units. The next one was 136 units. Then we bought a smaller one back down to 24 units. Then we bought 281 units. Then we bought 16 units. Then we bought 156 units. So we're all over the board. We buy small ones. We buy big ones. There's a couple of things that we saw throughout. After our third purchase, we're like, wow, we're buying these properties that we like to call mom and pops. Ones with no systems, ones like my restaurant. They're managed by mom and pops who were getting burned out, who were motivated to sell. They had a little deferred maintenance. And we're like, wow, all of these signs are just popping up, the same kind of property. So we said, listen, we have to document this. We have to see what we're going for. So we ended up doing that. And every time we see one of these properties, all of our brokers know that we like these mom and pops. So it really works for us. And then, you know what, on top of that, you do our framework and you look for these properties, and bam, you have a recipe. And like I said, learn, do, and teach. I fell into it on the third property. We just started writing our book by our first 3 purchases. I'm like, wow, people really need to learn this stuff and know this stuff because it's really powerful and it really works. And if you have a strategy and you can write it down and you can tell your brokers and tell your investors what you're looking for, it's a huge help for you.
Now, kind of as we start wrapping up this segment, I know that you guys have another kind of an ebook, a new book that you guys have released, and it has to do with some of the foundations of The Richest Man in Babylon. You had that as one of your favorite books, and I'll tell you,
yes,
it is one of my favorite books as well. The principles are just phenomenal, and based upon biblical times, but a long time ago, in Babylonian times, I should say, 6,000-7,000 years ago. But it is a very entertaining book to read. I'll actually listen to it. But with that being said, can you talk a little bit about the book and how those principles are applied?
Sure. I really think as things are changing so much has stayed the same. I mean, listen, you have to control your income. You have to control your expenses. But also, I mean, we worry about expenses a lot, but we never really think about growing our income. And this book always talks about, listen, 1 out of every 10 coins you got to put aside. The whole instant gratification thing is going to come back and bite us in the butt. Our whole generation, they cannot wait for a product. And I'm trying to teach my kids and say, listen, if you want to buy something, you want to buy a phone, great. I don't want you to put on credit. I want you to be able to pay it out of a savings account. The financial freedom account is really powerful. The problem is people don't think they can do that. So listen, put it on auto pay. Get 1 coin out of every 10 you make, 10%, put it aside. And what will happen is if you can't do that, put half of 1%. And then half of 10%, which is 5, and then grow to 10%, and you'll see that savings start to grow, and that's where you start out with. And then obviously all the other laws. Listen, you have to get into somebody and people. You're not going to go buy real estate through a guy like in that analogy that they had, a shield maker going out and trying to buy jewels. He knows nothing about jewels. You have to take your advice from people that know what they're doing. So there's so many important ideas and concepts in that book that are really simple. And I think people might be turned off by that, but it really is that simple to start out with. And once you start and you pick whether it's buying jewels or whether it's doing real estate or whether it's internet marketing, learn it and then invest that financial freedom money into what you're doing.
It's in that book, and it talks about going out buying jewels and different things, and they had an analogy where the guy basically goes in and thinks he's buying these fine jewels, and he's buying glass, and gets totally ripped off. And that's what happens in this world sometimes. I heard something to the effect of when a man with experience meets a man with money, the man with money leaves with experience, and a man with experience leaves with the money. And so that can happen in real estate or anything else for that matter. But so when you're talking about experiences, let's talk about this. What is one of the things, if you could go back and give yourself one piece of advice over the past 10 years or so, what would you have given yourself advice wise, and what were you doing in your life at that time?
2 of the biggest words in life and in investing is due diligence. You have to do due diligence on anything you do, whether it's you marrying your wife, whether it's starting a business, whether it's buying a property. And my first couple investments, I wish I had done my proper due diligence on the partnership, on the partners, on the investment itself. And you know what? In a way, I'm glad that I didn't, because I learned the hard way. And when you learn the hard way, you have either 2 things in life. You can quit. Unfortunately, I didn't quit. Fortunately, I went out and I said, how am I going to do this? So I learned it the second way. But it's really important for anything you do in life to be prepared and to really be knowledgeable and really do your due diligence on anything.
Now, I've only got about 30 seconds left, but when you talk about due diligence, you're talking about just like Googling stuff, right? And then whatever Google says is what you go with?
I'm talking deep dive, my friend. I'm talking like, listen, if you're going to buy a property, find out who you're buying with, find out where you're buying with, find out if the market's good, find out if it's going to cash flow. you have to find out everything about an investment, or, like you said, in business, is this a good place to start? So, and when you do that, whether it's going with mentors, whether it's going asking other people, that's what I'm talking about with due diligence. It's really important.
Yeah, absolutely. And so many people nowadays, they talk about they're going to do their research on stuff, and really a lot of times they're just talking about Googling something, and there's far more to that. If you need more information on doing due diligence, get with an expert, as we've talked about several times in this segment, and figure out what it is that they do so that you don't get hurt, because lessons a lot of times, unfortunately, are better bought than taught. And so if you don't learn it on your own, you will pay for it one way or another. So anyway, with that being said, that is great information for our ambitious listeners. And if you like what you're hearing, you can subscribe and get updated on all the new guests that we're going to have by texting the word ambitious to 69922. That's ambitious to 69922. Standard messaging rates apply. See the website for more details. Next, we'll be talking more to Gino about what ambitious things he's doing now, and then kind of how that transitions to what's next and how he makes those decisions, right here on the Ambitious Radio Network.
Here's another RepairMyCreditNow.com story.
It's a day this family had dreamed of for quite some time. They were finally getting that brand new SUV. The salesperson at the auto dealership gave them the keys and told them to take it for the weekend. He'd prepared the documents and called them Monday morning. The kids had already installed the headrest DVD when the phone rang. Seems there was a problem with their credit they were unaware of. They'd have to return the SUV to the dealership immediately. Embarrassing, to say the least.
www.repairmycreditnow.com.
Hello, this is Doug Parker with RepairMyCreditNow.com. Do you have less than perfect credit, a repo, maybe some late payments, a collection account? Are they being reported accurately? Studies show that over 70% of Americans have inaccuracies on their credit reports. Where do you fit in? Go to RepairMyCreditNow.com for your free credit report evaluation. And remember, your credit is your future. If you want to get started now, log on now. RepairMyCreditNow.com.
RepairMyCreditNow.com. www.repairmycreditnow.com.
Back in here on the show, it's Ambitious Radio Network. Hey, are you thinking of expanding your business but don't want to spend tens of thousands of dollars on a new phone system? Consider Grasshopper.com. You get to keep your existing number, you have multiple extensions, voicemails transcribed, and no new hardware. Grasshopper.com is the entrepreneur's phone system. Let's get back to the show with Doug Parker.
All right, we're back on the Ambitious Radio Network, and today we're talking to Gino Barbaro, and he is doing really so many ambitious things, written a couple books, and I really want to dive in. We talked a little bit about the Wheelbarrow Prophets, but I also want to talk about family, food, and the Friars, because I've got a copy of it here, and it's a great book. I mean, it makes me hungry just looking at it, okay? But can you tell us a little bit about the book and how you decided to write that, and really what it's all about?
Sure. About 10 years ago, I met the Franciscan Friars of the Renewal. My wife knew one of them, so they're a bunch of Catholic, I would say monks, but I mean they're priests and brothers who basically serve the poor, and they're in more indigent neighborhoods. They've got a bunch of friaries over the U.S., couple in England, couple in South America, and there's one in Harlem. So I went to the one in Harlem, and at the time my skill set was cooking. So I said, hey guys, you guys want me to give you a cooking class? So they said, sure. They didn't know how to cook. They would get new postulants every year. These guys would come in to see if they discern if they wanted to join the brothers, and gave them a cooking class. It was great. And then I said, hey, what are you guys doing for Thanksgiving? Because I was always looking to do something for Thanksgiving, to cook for whether it was soup kitchen or whatever. My parish up here didn't do that. They said, sure. So the first year I went down about 10 years ago, brought about 2-3 turkeys. We had about Thanksgiving for about 30 or 40 people in the neighborhood. Next year, bigger. So finally, last year, we did about 150 people in the neighborhood in Harlem. Got about 10 turkeys, ham, got a little penne vodka, a little Italian. So from that whole process, I said, you know what, let me write you guys a cookbook. So I was going to write a few pages of a cookbook, but then I said, you know what, let me just go a little bit deeper. So, I was constantly doing this little book, and I wanted to give it to these guys, and this is who I wrote it for. And I also wanted to, I wanted to make the central theme about family, about food, and about, serving other people, giving other people back, giving value to them. And I wanted my children to be a central part of it, because I wanted them to see that, hey, listen, we're lucky. At 3 o'clock, we're done. We're going to grandma's house. But not everyone is lucky on Thanksgiving, on all these holidays, because they don't have any family. They don't have anyone to spend the time with. So for me, it was important for them to do that. And I'm, to this day, I do. We went down for the 4th of July. We had a barbecue for the neighborhood, and for them, it's great because they're by themselves. They live in single resident occupants. They're people who are older, who might have mental health issues, and they're lonely. And these guys take care of them. They take care of the neighborhood. They serve them. So I said, listen, I want to be part of that, and it's a great thing. It's one of the things that I'm really proud about that I do with my kids.
Well, and I'll tell you, man, like I said, flip through it, and it really it's very nicely done. For you to say you just kind of got going and this is what came out of it, that's really pretty cool because it shows when you're passionate about something and something you really are enjoying, what the finished product can look like. And it's just got, tons of great recipes in there, and it looks like came from the heart and has a great story, great background. So that's cool stuff. Now, you've been a successful restaurateur, you've a successful author, you've got these different things. Now you're doing the real estate. When you're transitioning through that process, I know a lot of entrepreneurs, and I say this often on the show, but they're the only folks that are willing to work 80 hours a week, so they don't have to work 40 hours a week for somebody else. And, you've got all these ideas bouncing around in your head, and you have absolutely recreated yourself. From one thing to something totally different. Going through that transition, do you have other things that are on your mind or other projects that are up and coming that you're thinking about? Or what does that thought process kind of feel like when it's going through your head?
Well, when I was transitioning, and I tell people this a lot, I was at the restaurant during my lunch hour. I'd have the laptop out, writing articles, and I'd have my mom come over and go, what are you doing? Why are you working so hard? And I'd look at her and I'd say, this is not work. This is fun. The other 10 hours is work. So for 60 hours a week for me was not a problem. I'd come home at night, read before I left the morning. So that was my goal. And I know she wasn't doing that in an evil way. She just my mom trying to protect me. But at the same time, I just knew I wanted to get out. And you think of other things that you can do. You're always at that number. What do I need a month to make? So that was my primary goal, to get that financial freedom number. And once I hit that number, I said, this is what I want to do now. I have the option to slow down for a couple months, enjoy, or listen, I want to start growing that Jake and Gino brand, and that's what I ended up doing. I ended up doing the Jake and Gino brand, and continuing to grow the real estate portfolio. Both of those things are like central to me right now.
Sure, and that financial freedom number, I'm glad you brought that up, because a lot of times people, when they think about financial freedom, they're thinking about like being a multimillionaire or whatever the case is. And just to spend a little bit of our time on that, the bottom line is that you basically take all your bills, whatever they wind up being, and you say, hey, it's $3,000 a month, it's $5,000 a month, it's $10,000, whatever that number is, and you say, that's what I've got to take home every single month after the taxes are paid, in order to sustain. And it may be a situation where, if you had that much money coming in every single month, whether you were working for it or not, would you continue to do the things that you're doing right now? And 99% of the people that I've talked to over the years absolutely would not be doing the same thing every single day if that were the case. So that may be a situation where they want to evaluate it, whether that vehicle for them is real estate, whether that vehicle is some kind of coaching or training, whether that vehicle is some kind of direct sales. There's a million different things you can be doing. But like you mentioned, it's putting something in place, working on it, and if you don't like the life you've got, if you don't like the job you've got, or whatever the case is, there are some options that you can do, not overnight, but over time, putting some things in place to put you in a position where you really do enjoy what you got going on.
Yep, and I think for the listeners, there's 3 types of income. There's earned income, your job. There's portfolio income, money from stocks and bonds, and there's passive income. Now, the passive income is where your listeners should be concentrating on, whether it's building your business, whether it's royalties from books, pictures, whether it's internet marketing, whether it's real estate. We're not trained that way. Colleges train us as employees. That's the problem. And entrepreneurs think a different way. So I think if you can focus on the passive income and grow your brand or grow your business, that's where we should all be focusing on.
Yeah, that's great. That is really great information, and breaking it down that way. So many people, I heard a kid the other day say something about he doesn't want to work from 9 to 5 until he's 95, and it kind of resonated because you look at a lot of these situations where people reach the kind of the prime earning years. There's always outliers for everything, but they get up past whatever the age is, 65 years old or whatever, and they just don't have quite as much energy as they once had, and maybe they're not quite as sharp as they once were. And if you're not in a position sometime during that, time frame that you can, survive on it. That, you see people that are greeters at Walmart or wherever the case is. And, if that's not the life that you want to live one day, you got to do something about it now while you can. And, put things in place where you've got that residual or that passive type income. So that's great information. Now, from a mentoring standpoint, can you tell us a little bit about some of the folks that are mentoring you, how you grow?
I first started out, well, like I said, my parents were my first mentors. Work hard, show up, be prepared, take calculated risks. The only problem with them was they like to use the word small, and that really turned me off because they want a small business. So I wanted to get rid of that word small out of my vocabulary. I always told them, I said, does Steve Jobs want small? I don't think he woke up in the morning saying small. So one of my big mistakes wasn't thinking big enough years ago. I was sheltered. I said, you know what, we're comfortable, but comfortable basically means you got to continue to work, and that just did not sit well with me for many years. So I ended up getting coached by somebody for real estate. Took a 6-month program. I loved it. I did my first real estate actually was with Rich Dad. I did a Rich Dad training program, and that really opened my eyes to be able to, go outside of my market. I bought a couple of properties up in Rochester, learned how to deal with management companies, and that opened the door for me because I said, you know what, if I can do this now, I can find any market. So did the coaching with him. Then I went and I found another real estate coach that I really enjoyed. Then I started buying, and I ended up going to coaching school to become a certified life coach, professional coach, because I just wanted it for the personal development, for the personal growth, and out of it I got certified, but that wasn't the real reason for going. I wanted to work on myself, and out of that, that really helped me expand as far as talking about, words we use, the levels of energy we go throughout the day, having that anabolic energy, raising your level of energy, raising your level of consciousnness. That really helped me out in my life.
Sure. And are there anybody that you're following or listening to that you really kind of like the content they have?
Oh yeah. I love listening to Grant Cardone. I think his sales stuff is awesome. I mean, I've got one of his sales trainings. I've read a lot of Gary Keller books. I like Dave Lindahl, Rich Dad. We just had Garrett Sutton on as a podcaster on our show. They're a great space. They have a great space. I mean, if you go into real estate, there's a lot of guys. I like Bigger Pockets. They've got a great website. I mean, there's a lot of guys you can go out there and listen to, but those are mainly the guys that I listen to right now.
Sure. No, those are great guys. And so let's talk about maybe what's next for you as we wrap up this segment. Are there anything that you've got dreamed up right now that's kind of on the horizon that's maybe in the hopper, getting ready to launch, or are you new enough in some of the coaching, some of the other stuff that's your main focus right now?
Well, it's funny you say that. I always joke with my wife. I don't think we're launching any more children in the future. That's unfortunate for me, but we'll see what happens.
Well, you said in the break that your kids are from age 17 down to 2, correct? 2,
yes. So, I mean, we space them out every 3 years, but you know what? She's getting a little older. I'm getting a little older. So, I mean, the door might be open. You know what happens? The first couple of years are very difficult. Then after that, she forgets about how hard it was, and she goes, let's have another one. So I'm hoping the doors open a little bit. You never know, but we'll see about that. But as far as the other stuff, professional stuff, Jake and I are constantly creating products for Jake and Gino. We have calculators. We have, micro courses. We've got tons of training videos. That's the stuff that I love to talk about, and I love to, continue to create. And as far as properties, we're continuing to purchase properties. We're looking at another 30 unit right now. So there's a lot of stuff going on right now.
Man, that is great stuff. And after we hear a brief word from our sponsors, we'll be discussing more with Gino, what he does to recharge his ambitious body, mind, and spirit right here on the Ambitious Radio Network. Hey, ambitious listeners, you hear us interviewing entrepreneurs all the time, and there's a common theme. They want to be more productive and improve their communication. As an ambitious entrepreneur, you're always on the go. So turn your mobile phone into a business phone system with Grasshopper, the entrepreneur's phone system. The Ambitious Radio Network recently partnered with Grasshopper to offer our listeners a special discount. Log on to ambitiousradio.com and click on the Grasshopper banner in the bottom right-hand corner. Get a new business number or keep your current one. Sound professional with a main greeting and multiple extensions that forwards callers to your mobile phone or others in your organization. Get a toll-free number or local number for your business with multiple extensions. Set up each extension with custom call forwarding to any phone in the world. Get your voicemails emailed to you as an audio attachment or transcribe an email. Keep business calls separate from your personal calls. Plans start at $12 a month with a 30-day money-back guarantee. Remember to click on the Grasshopper banner at ambitiousradio.com for a special discount for our listeners. Join the over 150,000 small business owners that have stayed connected with Grasshopper. See how Grasshopper works? It's the entrepreneur's phone system. Turn the world into your office.
And we're back in here on the show. It's Ambitious Radio Network, recharging the ambitious mind, body, and spirit, made possible by RepairMyCreditNow.com. You know, having bad credit can be really draining. It's okay to not be okay as long as you're on the road to being okay. Let RepairMyCreditNow.com help get you back on track. You know, many of our ambitious listeners prefer to listen to books as opposed to reading them. Now, with that, we've teamed up with Audible.com to offer you one free audiobook. Just go to AmbitiousRadio.com, click on the Audible banner on the page to find out more. Back to the show now with Doug Parker.
All right, we're back on the Ambitious Radio Network. Today we're talking to Gino Barbaro, successful entrepreneur, restaurateur. I mean, the guy's really doing everything, training people, expanding, just getting outside of his box. And it's been, really great information for me, because if you're not reinventing yourself, then you're probably shriveling up. You can either be moving forward or moving backwards, but you're very seldom actually sitting still. So welcome back to the show, sir. How are you?
I'm doing good.
Good. So let's just talk about life in general. What is it in this world that fills you, and what types of things drain you, and then how do you stay focused on the things that fill you?
We didn't even touch on this earlier. I'm not considering. I'm going to move to Jacksonville, Florida. So we were down there for the month of May and June and half of July. I never would have been able to do this without the real estate. Trying to sell the house up here, that's draining. Trying to move 6 kids and the whole logistics thing, that's draining. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that you really need to do. I need to sleep. I need to get between 7 and 8 hours of sleep a night. I need to eat healthy. Thank God my wife stays at home. She's a fantastic cook. I'm blessed, and I'm lucky in that respect. I just need to, be in this space. I love talking to guys who are also entrepreneurs. I love to actually coach, like to talk to people on the phone, because I know when you talk to people on the phone who want to talk back to you, it's a great feeling. At the restaurant, I wasn't like that. You'd have a customer come in, complain. It was just like, but when you're talking in that space and you're talking to people who want to talk to you, it's invigorating. And believe it or not, you learn probably more from them than they learn from you, which I never thought would be possible. But you just look at things in a different perspective. That's basically what I do to recharge.
It's interesting that you say that. A year or so, and it's actually, this is the 52nd episode of Ambitious Radio. So you are the 1 year bookend on our show here. But with that being said, I got into this podcasting, very much for the same reason, because I, was called from a radio station, and they wanted to do some stuff on the credit deal, and as part of that reinvention, I was like, I don't know that I want to do the financial side of things. That sounds kind of boring to me personally. Mm-hmm. But if I can interview, entrepreneurs and thought leaders and really pick their brains, I look at it as a mentoring session. It's an hour where I get to get fed and get great information, and then go back and apply it to my life, and then we'll broadcast it out so that others, can learn from it as well. So I, like you, I enjoy that interaction, and then, getting feedback and, absorbing others' experiences. You can, a lot of times you hear learn from other people's, failures. But I look at it as learn from other people's successes. I go out and hunt for successful people that are making it happen. I can fail on my own. I want to learn from the successful people and make those things happen. Now, you mentioned that you're moving, and trust me, I've been in the same house now for 17 years. I want a new house, but I don't want to move, and so yes. I'm staying, for right now. But with that being said, when it comes to filling you and really, really recharging, I know you talked about sleep, and, literally probably 9 out of the 10 guests that I've interviewed, it seems like that 7 to 8 hour window is really, the prime deal. There's a couple people that get by on 4 or 5, but really 7, 8 hours is that. But are there any things that you like to really do to actually just to recharge when you're feeling drained? You're like, you know what, I got a timeout. I got to tap the brakes, and I got to go do this for a little while. Do you meditate? Do you yoga? Do you do exercise, anything like that?
It's really weird that you say that. I don't really ever feel that way, to be honest with you, in the last year or so. I mean, when I was down in Florida for 2.5 months. I love the beach, love to walk. I do a lot of walking. I was actually working out at the time. Now I can't. I haven't gotten back, but I love to do a lot of walking. You know what? I sit down. Obviously, I guess, meditate, pray. I like to pray and just to think about, how fortunate I am and, bring it back to that. But I love to spend time with my family. That's, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. We're together. So that's my recharge, actually. There's nothing better than having a child's laughter. There really isn't. I mean, and maybe that's why I keep having them. I just love their laughter. I love being around them. And you are what you surround yourself with. So I surround myself with happiness. I've been fortunate. So it's actually, I told my third daughter, I was a grumpy guy, but, when she came, the third one came, my grumpiness was lifted and the grumpiness is gone. So spending time with my family is number one. I used to be a big gardener. Couldn't do it this year because I was down there. So I love gardening, love being outside.
That's great stuff. You talk about the children's laughter, and it sounds like you're living a very balanced life. And so many entrepreneurs they overdo it in one place or another, and obviously with as many kids as you have, that's not, I guess you could probably neglect them, but the bottom line is it'd be tough to do with that many and all those kinds of things. So it seems like you've got a really balanced life, and that is really a great place to be. And guys, if you're out there listening and maybe you don't have that balanced life, maybe it's you're grinding it out so hard that you're feeling drained at some point, you got to evaluate that. One of our other guests a couple episodes back mentioned that your body will tell you when things aren't right. And when if you're feeling drained, if you're getting sick, if those things are happening, there's a reason for it. It's not by accident. You talked about you're eating healthy and your wife's a great cook. But so many people, and again, I'm pointing at myself again here. I'm running to Burger King and I'm eating in my truck while I'm dropping off a bank deposit and coming back to the office. That is probably not the healthiest thing to be eating. But at the end of the day, it's just the life I live, as they say. But yeah, you just got to kind of find that balance. And now you said Florida, Jacksonville, Florida, the beach. Are there other beaches do you guys like to travel? I mean, with a big family of 8, that's a little different than just you and the wife going and taking a weekend vacation. Do you guys like to go as a group anywhere to vacation?
We do everything together. I mean, we'll go to the grocery store together because I guess we have to be a witness for other people because it seems like family life is dying and large families are dying. So we want people to see the witness. We want them to say that family life is here. Have kids. Kids are central to our lives. I mean, whenever we go on vacation, we'll all go on the plane. I mean, I'm not going to go on vacation without them. To vacation is to vacate, to leave where you are. So why would I leave them back? And I want my children, when they grow up, to have families. I want my daughters to be able to have the ability to stay home if they want and have kids of their own and take care of their kids. So I have to be the role model. I'm not going to go away for 3 days, leave my children. It's just not where I am in life. Maybe when we get older, me and my wife and the kids are, grown up. But for now, that's just not what I want to do.
That's good stuff. Be a witness for others, and you're modeling for your kids. Your kids, it's not listen to what I say. It's they watch what you do, and actions definitely speak louder than words. And, man, I'll tell you what, I have really, really enjoyed our time today. It's been great information, and I hope our listeners are getting as much out of these conversations as I am. Kind of as we kind of close out now, are you social? Are you on the web, those kind of things? If someone wanted to get in touch with you, what's the best way to interact with you?
I guess I should say fortunately and unfortunately, because I don't like social media, but Jake and I are out there all over the place. I mean, we've got Facebook page, Jake and Gino. We've got Instagram. We've got Jake likes to Snapchat. I'm on LinkedIn. I have a website, GinoBarbaro.com. Our website is JakeandGino.com. So we're all over the place.
Gotcha. Well, and Gino is Gino. It can be spelled a couple different ways. But with that being said, when I Googled you, it was pretty simple. You showed up everywhere, and it's great information. You got great videos out there, and it really is just great, generally good content. And if you're looking at real estate, guys, not that this is like an advertisement or anything, but I mean, at the end of the day, they've got some good fundamental things to learn from. And as we talked about earlier, I mean, you're going to learn the lesson and you're going to pay for it one way or another. You can either pay for it by, investing in a class or those kind of things, or you're going to learn those lessons on your own. And sometimes when you're learning them on your own, it can be very, very expensive. And I just really appreciate you coming on the show today, sir. It was great to have you on. Great information, and love to hear about the successes that you're having.
Doug, thanks. And like you said, I could probably be on for another 3 hours, but I think your listeners would shoot both of us. So I guess now is a good time to say goodbye, right?
Yeah, I'll tell you, same way, right back at you. I had a bunch of questions that we couldn't get to because it was good information, but I appreciate that time. And guys, tune in on Wednesdays to Ambitious Radio, where we interview thought leaders and exciting entrepreneurs changing the faces of their organizations. Remember, you can make money or you can make excuses, but you cannot make both. So go out there and be ambitious.
Thank you for listening to the Ambitious Radio Network, hosted by serial entrepreneur Doug Parker. Join us weekly as we have engaging conversations with ambitious entrepreneurs and thought leaders on topics that can be applied immediately after listening. Like what you've heard? Listen to other interviews at ambitiousradio.com or subscribe on iTunes.